So this weekend we had a table read with some brilliant, lovely, intelligent, thoughtful actor friends for Mrs. Hawking Part 4, which I am currently calling Gilded Cages. And that was amazing. I'm so lucky to have people who are willing to show up and spend their time and their brain power and their talent giving me the thoughts on how to improve the piece. I swear that these Mrs. Hawking plays wouldn't be a fraction as good as they are without these wonderful people who are willing to give of themselves in order to make them better. And it just means so much to me. And I got some awesome feedback. Overall, like I think I'm on the right track. I think it's in the right direction, at the very least. Although they pointed out a lot of things that I'm really glad that they brought my attention to, so I can work on. I recorded the whole discussion. Even had Bernie on FaceTime, so he could listen and put his 2 cents in. And what I want to do is jump right in. I want to like listen to the recording and process it all and like start tearing in. It's hard to get my mind off of it, in fact, but I think that the best thing for me right now would be to actually take some time away from it. Editing is difficult. I suffer very strongly from the fallacy of, well, if I knew how to write it right, I would have written it that way the first time, which is a terrible, terrible mindset to have. And also very, very untrue. But I usually need time and space to get distance from the piece in order to perform those operations, even if I sort of know what direction I'm working in. Like, for example, it turned out too wordy. That was something that did kind of disappoint me with myself. My preferred form of storytelling I would describe as spare and muscular. And, you know, like Bernie likes to tease me that, you know, if I had my way, all of the plays would be nothing but 2 people staring meaningfully at each other from opposite ends of the stage. But this was overwritten, and it's definitely going to need cutting back. And that's tricky. Like, so I think that in particular, I'm going to need to get the distance just so I feel able to cut something without, you know, it being like bleeding from my flesh or you know, less melodramatically, me feeling like, oh, but what if I can't do without this? And so that's going to be, I think, one of the first orders of business, and that is definitely something that I'm going to need to hold off a bit on in order to do right. But I feel so excited to get going. I want so badly to make this really good and to have this in performable form, because it's really an exciting direction for us to go in. It's a totally different sort of Mrs. Hawking story. You know, previously everything was structured by a case. They would have a case, and the working of that would be sort of the centerpiece of everything that happens. And while, you know, character moments and emotional growth and stuff was always an important part, they were always structured around the case. In this, there's a case, but it's structured around the emotional moments and the character stuff. And I like to think that, you know, in telling 3 stories, you know, that let us, you know, sort of get invested in the characters, I think I've gotten people invested in the characters. It's earned at this point that that's what we're spending our time on, that people want that material at this point and will enjoy it and really get invested in it. But it's different. It makes for a different shape to the story than people are probably expecting and used to at this point. But one of my goals for Part 4 was to sort of upend our formula a little bit. Like a couple of weeks ago, I released the Mrs. Hawking drinking game, which has, you know, a bunch of the tropes that we've been using and that we like to make fun of in rehearsal. It's like, oh, here's the part where they go to a party to gather information, you know, stuff like that. Well, there's no party in Part 4 for information gathering. Here's the part where Mrs. Hawking, you know, yells at the client. Like, you know, we have these established things that have been happening across the 3 plays, but now I definitely wanted to shatter our formula and go in a way that people are not expecting, but I hope still feels authentically like the story that we've been building and feels like we've earned it and it's part of the further journey of these characters. And I think I got a lot of really good responses and critiques that will help me improve the piece. I talked too much. Normally in these things, I try really hard to just listen and not sort of direct the conversation myself. But honestly, my nerves were kind of jangled going into this one. First of all, like, I've never been all that good at phrasing, well, I was trying to achieve this. If I failed to do that, can you give me a suggestion how I could do that? A lot of the time it just comes off like I'm being defensive, like, oh, well, let me explain what I was going for, because if you understood it, then clearly you wouldn't have a problem with it, which isn't what I'm trying to say, but that's what it sounds like a lot of the time. So that may have happened, and I regret it if it did. But also, like, I was really nervous about the fact that I was taking on this colonial story, and I had to represent a situation and a character who was from a colony, and do it respectfully and without falling into like racist pitfalls or making mistakes that would dehumanize the character. And I really care about doing that right, and I guess I was just really nervous that maybe I'd, done a really bad job. And I don't think I didn't do a terrible job. I did an okay job. But it still has a little ways to go to make it really work, to make this character really work. And I want her to be a character that an actor would be proud to play. So I have a little bit more work to do on that front, and I've got some direction and more research to do and more people to talk to. I've talked mostly to actors at this point, acting, or asking, do you feel she has an arc? Do you feel like she has her own agency and protagonistic qualities, like she wants something and she takes actions to get it, and she grows in some meaningful way, and her journey isn't just an object lesson for other characters, and she isn't accessorized or instrumentalized, something like that. And I think I hit most of those, but like there's a few more things that I need to work on to make her where she should be, and a few more people that I ought to check with, like some experts. So that's my next step, but again, I think I need to take a little bit of time away before I really dig into that. So, give me strength. I'm really excited to bring this story to people, because I think that when we perform it, it's going to be something different and a really powerful advancement of a story that I've worked really hard on. So, wish me luck. Here we go.